कैसे में लगाएं? सी मैं वी उल्टा ए।
Start. Good evening, everyone. Our next session will start in a few minutes from now, so I would request everyone to take seat.
ये वाला जितना हो जाए 8:30 तक वाइंड अप कर देना।
सुन इधर
हेलो
Check. Just a favor. Just give me a go ahead when we start. Just give me a go when we start. Good evening, everyone. We all are inquisitive and curious about startups, and that's why we are at the eSummit here. I promise that our next session is going to be as enlightening as the last session was. And the agenda for this session is solving the problem that no one has solved. And our panelists for tonight is Mr. Abhinandan Balasubramanian, Dhruv Sangvi, and Varun Seth. Unfortunately, Varun Seth couldn't join us here because he missed his flight. But we do have a message from him. But before we play that message, let me tell you who Varun Seth is. Well, Varun Seth is the dynamic personality who recently made it to the Forbes 30 under 30 list. Varun Seth is the founder and CEO at Keto, an efficient crowdfunding platform that allows individuals, corporates, and NGOs to raise funds for social causes and ideas. Having always been interested in the financial sector, he had done a couple of financial programs that included CFA and FRM.
Hey guys.
He also worked as an interest rate swap dealer with ICAP, the world's largest broking house for derivatives and fixed income products. Only a person with pragmatism and conviction like his would have a guts to leave such a job and start something of his own. Let's play his message.
Hey guys, my name is I am co-founder and CEO at Keto. First of all, a sincere apologies that I could not make it. I actually did make it till the airport and I waited there for a few hours, but my flight was delayed by God knows how many hours and unfortunately I had to come back home. I'm extremely disappointed I could not join you guys and could not be there in person. But having said that, I just wanted to talk about my story at Keto, how I started, what we have been doing since the last 5 years, and of course all the struggle that I still go through on a daily basis to scale Keto and to grow Keto as an organization as well. So I wanted to quickly start with my journey. I started Keto back in 2012. I had absolutely no experience in entrepreneurship. I had not started any company. This was my first startup. I actually overnight quit my job more than quitting my job, I got let go of my job and I thought of doing something by myself. My background is not very different from you guys. I went to college. I graduated out of college. To be honest, I did not learn anything fruitful in college, but I did graduate and I was trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. I took out some time to figure out what I wanted to do and what my future holds. And I thought back in 2012 that I wanted to do something in finance because it looked like a cool job. It looked like a high-paying job. And I actually went back and I started studying for my CFA and my financial risk management, thinking that I'll get a good job in a good financial service company and I'll get paid well as well. I did all of that and I did find a job. I started working in a company called ICAP. I was working as an interest rate swap trader and I was getting paid really well as well. And that's when I started thinking in terms of, is this something that I really wanted to do? Is this something I'm really following my passion? And is this something I see myself doing for the next 10-15 years down the line? In all that thought process, in terms of asking myself these questions, in terms of figuring out what I want to do, at this point very fortunate thing happened where my whole team was let go of and they actually shut down my division, and I landed up on my I was back from where I started without a job after studying all of that. And I started asking myself the question is that, do I want to apply for another job? Do I want to go back and do something that I really didn't enjoy, or I really want to create impact and create value in people's lives? And that's when the whole idea of Keto has started to form in my head. I really saw that there was a huge opportunity where we could create an online exchange where people could raise money for anything, because the way I thought about it is that 99% of the money is controlled by 1% of the people. And my thought was that how do we get 99% of the people to start funding ventures that they would like and they would want. And that's how the journey started, thinking in terms of what more and more I could do using the internet to connect people who wanted funds and people who wanted to give funds, and something which was not done through equity or debt, which are traditional means of fundraising. So I started thinking of how an online platform would look and what would entail to build something like this, and the journey of Keto started. After I was let go, I was thinking of should I do this full time? Should I go back to a job, something more secured, something more of a full-time job? and I said, you know, let's just screw it, let's just take that risk, let's take that chance, and you know, let's try to do something that was in my mind for quite some time. That's when I would say, you know, this was 2012, it's been 5 years now. When I look back, that's how the journey and the struggle of Keto started. Being an entrepreneur, I think over the last 5 years has been the most hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It is so difficult that, you know, I would say there's just either very good days or just very bad days. There's absolutely nothing in the middle. You know, there are extreme highs and extreme lows. There's high level of stress, high level of not knowing what you are doing, not knowing what people around are you also doing, if they're believing in you, if they're you know, agree with you in terms of what you're trying to do. But it's one of the best decisions I took. I believe entrepreneurship molds you as a person, makes you stronger mentally, physically, in every way possible. The stuff that you have to go through, the experience that you have as an entrepreneur is something that no job, nothing ever else, no business school will ever get you that experience that entrepreneurship gets you. You know, in terms of starting your own company, building your own teams, going through that whole process of trying to figure out the right product market fit, you know, hiring your first, you know, few employees, you know, working those 16 hours a day, trying to figure that, you know, is this going to something that's going to work, not work, is it going to fail? I think that experience is something that every person in their life should have, either irrespective of either you succeed or you fail. It's that experience that is something that is so important. And when you're so young as you guys are, it's the right time to take that experience. You know, you guys are in your early 20s, have very limited personal liabilities or families or anybody to look after. Your 20s are something that you should take those risks. You know, you should look at entrepreneurship as a mechanism of something, that entrepreneurship as a way of, you know, taking up something and taking something in the future. You know, in terms of success and failures, I think as an entrepreneur, I think that we would fail 99 times and succeed, you know, one time. You know, as it was correctly mentioned, 90% of the companies fail in the, you know, in the first 5 years, and there's no reason that you can't be in the 90% or in that 10%. But you know, constant perseverance, constant hard work, constant knocking on the door, not taking a no for an answer, are very, very important traits that you need to have in yourself to become an entrepreneur. At Keto, you know, I would say when we started, you know, for the first couple of years, it was such a big struggle. We were not able to raise any money. We could not get a buy-in because the concept was very different. It was new. It had the whole social element in it. I knocked on 140 investors' doors, which all rejected my idea. But you know what? It just takes that one. It just takes that one person to believe in your idea, to believe in you, to make it successful. So you might get rejected by 100 people, 150 people, 200 people, but as long as you believe in your idea, you believe that there is potential in what you're doing, that's all that matters. And you just need that one person to believe in you and, you know, take you forward, you know, help you take you forward with that. I think as a young entrepreneur, one of the very important things is to have a very good mentor. I think you should always, that's again learning that I had, which a mistake I made, is not having a good mentor right with me right from the start. Your mentor does not have to be an investor. It could be a professor, it could be your father's friend, but having somebody that you can go and have honest conversations with is a very important thing. You know, a lot of times I've met entrepreneurs who are not able to have open conversations with their investors because, of course, they are your investors. You have to always show a good picture in terms of how well your company is doing. But you might have, you know, if not an investor, have someone outside, but having a mentor with whom you can have honest conversation about what you're feeling mentally, you know, in terms of how things are going, could be in your personal life, professional life. These are conversations which will really help you to get much more clarity in your mind in terms of what you're doing, help you focus better in terms of your objectives and your goals as well. So I would highly recommend having a mentor, someone that you can spend at least a few hours every month discussing things that you can't discuss with anybody else. I think that is something that would really help you to become a great entrepreneur and to really, you know, scale your business and really get that clarity in your thought in terms of what you're trying to do. I would also, you know, Another learning has been that build businesses that are much sustainable, which have long-term, value. Don't look in, for the short ride. I know we all keep reading all these, crazy things, crazy valuation, companies getting funded, but don't fall into that trap. That trap rarely ever works. If you see the greatest companies, they all have succeeded scaling over years, over decades, over generations. Most Indian companies, or which are all billion-dollar companies, you see they have created wealth over 10, 15, 20 years. So don't just get into it thinking, that in the next 2 years I'll make so much money, or next 3 years I'll sell it to, a next investor or my closest competitor, or let me just do a Me Too model as well, and some, foreign company will come and acquire me. Build a business thinking on a 10, 15-year horizon. Where do you want to be in the next 15 years? Where do you think this product or company, or would there be demand for something like this over the next 15 years? Can you create value over the next 15 years? Can you build a team of hundreds and thousands of employees? Can the company be global in itself? So these are thoughts that you should have, and you should think strongly about before diving into entrepreneurship. Don't go into the valuation game, don't go in the short-term game. Think how you can build long-term sustainable businesses which can really help grow and create a lot of value around people, your employees, your shareholders, everybody, and your customers. The other learning that I've had at Keto has been the idea of having a strong team, having strong co-founders. I believe, no great company has, very few good companies are built without having good co-founders. Having good co-founders is very, very important. You need to have a sounding board. You need to have somebody who you can have conversations with in terms of your product, your business, what you want to do. You need to have somebody who can focus on different aspects of your business. Somewhere where you are weak, maybe you're technically weak, or you maybe are weak in terms of operations or finance or business. Having good co-founders as your early team members is a very, very important thing. So if you're looking to start something, try and look for people with similar thought process, similar vision, similar mind space, but somebody who complements you. If you're weak at something, your co-founder has to be strong at that. That's what something forms a great team. At Keto, that's what we've done. Since I was not from a technical background, my co-founder is a CTO who brings in that technical expertise. I have a business and finance expertise, and that's where that's where we match, and that's how we gel so well together. And that's how our Keto has grown so successfully over the last few years as well. I would not want to take more of your time, but I would leave you guys to that. I would wish you all the best with your endeavors. You can always reach out to me on varun@keto.org. You can always check out keto.org, the website as well. Reach out to me anytime if you need any help. Happy to have a discussion. Happy to guide you, advise you with whatever possible. If you ever guys come to Bombay, look me up, reach out to me, and wish you all the best. And hopefully, you guys have a great E-Summit. And good luck with all your endeavors. Thank you.
Well, that was an enlightening message. Our next panelist is Abhinandan Balasubramanian. He's the CEO and owner of Premier Futsal, the first entrepreneur-led sports league in Asia. Now, Premier Futsal led its first edition in India, which took place in 2016, featuring 6 teams and 50 players from 25 countries, and it enjoyed a robust TV viewership. His creativity and hard work has led him to Forbes 30 Under 30 India list. I would like him to call up on the stage. Our next panelist is Dhruvil Sanghvi. He serves as the CEO and co-founder of LogiNext. He has previously worked with Deloitte Consulting and Ernst & Young Technology Advisory. He has extensive experience of advising a variety of Fortune 500 companies, starting from logistics companies to state and federal governments, on how to convert big data into intelligence. Dhruvil was on the core team of advising the largest logistics company in US as a part of their last mile route optimization program. Nonetheless, he has also been recognized as one of the youngest and fastest growing startup CEOs in India. I would like him to call on the stage. Can we get the mics, please? Dhruval, let's begin with you. Take us through the journey of your startup.
Sure. First of all, I think it's pretty late and I see a lot of people. I was expecting very less people today. So thank you so much for being patient. It's wonderful to be here. My startup journey has been 3 years old now. I used to be just another engineer when I graduated from my undergrad college. Went to US for my further education as well. I studied in Carnegie Mellon. And just like any other engineer, joined Deloitte or Ernst & Young kind of companies. Working with large brands was always my my thing back then. That I want to work for a large company. I want to have that name on my resume and so on. Over time, I got good exposure from these organizations. I got a chance to work with some of the largest organizations like FedEx, UPS, GE, Home Shop Network, Amazon, and so on as my customers, as my clients. And what I was primarily focusing on back then in 2011-12 was to help these companies make sense of location data. In big data space, there's a lot of type of data, and I was primarily focused on logistics and location data. In like 4 or 5 years ago, that was a new thing. Nobody really knew about it. After a couple of years of corporate experience, I kind of realized that hey, if I can solve the same problem for another set of large organizations, but not the Fortune 500. Fortune 500 was spending millions of dollars to build their own technologies, like FedEx, all of you know, right? UPS, USPS. These guys spend millions of dollars to build their own tech, their own route optimization, load balancing, network optimization. It's a lot of complex tech they build in-house. But we kind of, after some research, we realized that's not going to be the case with the rest of the world. Not everybody can spend millions of dollars to build their own technologies. Even the largest of the companies in India, in Asia, in Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia kind of countries, they don't have so much of capital to invest in their own tech. And if we could do something where we can package this technology of location intelligence into a more digestible way for these enterprises, that could be a huge demand. And back in 2013 end or 14, that's when India was rising, or waking up to the existence of startups. So if you remember, Amazon had launched in India at that point in time, Uber had launched, and the Indian customer and enterprises were now realizing the need of these kind of technologies. Like for example, when Uber, when they launched, they were just having a simple payment option of Paytm and cash. Now not just the one-to-one trip, but Uber also allows you to use Uber Pool. Ola allows you to use Ola Share, right? It's very interesting, complex algorithm that runs behind it, which allows them to pool two customers together who are going in the similar direction and being dropped off at the similar or close by locations. So such kind of tech is still non-existent in companies like Unilever, Procter & Gamble, Adani, Reliance, ITC, which are the largest conglomerates and largest corporate groups of India, but they are very traditional in their working patterns. And that's what we do at the moment. We right now have more than 150 enterprise customers across Asia. These are the top 150 companies of Asia, including Alibaba, Paytm, Flipkart, Myntra, Reliance, Adani's of the world, Americana Group, Lulu. There's a lot of other companies based in Middle East which you may not be aware of as such. I'll not take those names. But these are the guys who we work with right now. And interestingly, in last 3 years, we have grown significantly. We have tripled our revenue every year in last 3 years. We are one of the most, lean startups, as we call ourselves. We are still a very small team. We are a team of 150 people. Comparing it to our revenues and the customers we serve, it's still significantly smaller. And yeah, we are very proud of it. I would love to answer any specific questions if there is any. There's a lot of challenges that has gone into it, a lot of insight, interesting insight, ups and downs that have gone into it. But we'd love to talk more, as we go.
I would like to know more about the Premier Futsal because I'm sure in our audience a lot of people are gamers here. So if you can tell about Premier Futsal.
I usually go first because when someone like, so obviously Dhruil, he's given you all these complex set of things to think about, and I can never beat that. When I talk about Premier Futsal, it's very simplistically a sports league. So you guys know the IPL. What we've built, what I've built is the IPL of futsal. So futsal, just to set context, is the five-a-side version of football. It's played indoors. It's a globally played sport in over 180 countries. It's never been done at the scale that we've launched it. We launched the first season last year. So if you guys follow football, we had guys like Ronaldinho, Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes, Michel Salgado, so legends of Barcelona, Real Madrid, Manchester United play in our league. And in the first year, we had 100 million viewers on television in 5 countries, and this year we are live in 85 countries. It's launching in 2 weeks. I would love to play a video, but it's the antithesis that IIT can't play a video, huh? But I think they are giving some signals back, then we can actually. Oh, you can? Okay, yeah, they should just play the video because it's so much easier when people see it than me trying to explain what futsal is.
Can we play the video, please?
Fastest growing indoor sports in the world. 5 versus 5. Fastest growing indoor sports in the world. 5 versus 5. 40 minutes. End-to-end action. High drama and high octane.
He's surrounded. That doesn't stop him. That does not stop him.
Premier Futsal is not football. It is a T20 of football.
It's all about the best skills, tricks.
It's about counter-rate control. Now the overhead kick.
And goals.
And it's a brilliant finish.
With superstar footballers, along with the world's best futsal players like Falcao, Angelot, Nato, Pula and many more from across the globe. And the footballing royalty from Portugal, former World Player of the Year as the president of the Premier Futsal, Luis Figo.
Futsal is not football, everything's so different. I haven't played futsal since I was a kid. This is totally different. We are playing against professionals, which it makes it really difficult for us.
I think it's a great concept. It's a really, I think, very similar to 2020 cricket.
E eu garanto que nenhum esporte vai ser tão atrativo quanto o futsal, porque é um esporte que o público vibra do começo ao fim.
To play football just makes it extra special. Obviously with some friends who I used to play with also, play with and against made it even more special.
Yeah, I think people get the idea.
É um torneio particular esse.
Well, because due to limited time, we can't play the whole video and we'll take our discussion further.
So yeah, so you get the idea now, right? So it's sort of the T20 of football. So it's played over 40 minutes, it's 5-a-side. What we did differently was we got football superstars involved in it, which has never been tried before anywhere in the world. And yeah, it was a very new concept. Lots of people said this is never going to work because in India, football itself is not very popular, and any version of that game, will take some time, will take a lot of gestation period. Which is why we sort of got the football superstars involved. We got the Indian cricket team captain involved, and built that brand around it of being very cool and out there and very brash and cocky about the sport that we are into, and invested heavily in the production of how we go about it. So globally, futsal viewership is about 30-40 million. The first year we had 100 million viewers, so that the dynamics changed by having investing so much more into the quality of what we are putting out. So that's literally what it is. My background though is as a tech entrepreneur. Before this, I built and sold a company in the secondaries market, so buying and selling shares in private companies. I mean, Dhruval would want to do some of that later in his this thing, the journey of Loginext. But yeah, so that's been my journey. I don't have too much of really cool tech things to drop right here about Premier Futsal. But yeah, happy to answer the questions about how we built it or so I'm always the outlier in most of these panels that I sit in, because all the tech entrepreneurs along with me, they talk about unit economics, how do you build that MVP, and I talk about how you go and spend 100 crores upfront. So it's a very different way of building a business, but ours is a media property, and that's how you build a media property. It takes a lot of time to make money in it, like the UFC, for instance. You guys might have known the Conor McGregor fight that happened recently. He fights in the UFC, and after 20 years, it was sold for $4 billion. But when they started off, there was no viewership. No one knew what MMA was, all of that. So it's a challenge of building a media property. But media properties and sports properties very specifically are the hottest segment of content creation today, where brands integrate and you're able to reach so many more people very quickly over a small period of time. So it's a different way of building businesses, and obviously the sector itself is different, but at the core of it, the fundamentals, I think how we build businesses is the same.
So both these startups, Loginext and Premier Futsal, they are very innovative in the market, and that's what we are here to discuss, that solving a problem that no one has dared to. So how important it is it a problem that we need to solve it, or solving that particular problem in a very different manner?
So I'll answer for Premier Futsal again. Like I said, we'll differ in every answer that we say. It's actually 3 against me normally when I sit in panels. But see, Premier Futsal, we didn't go out there to solve a problem. I'm deeply passionate about football. I wanted to do something in football. And there was an existing football league in the country, and we said, okay, what can we do differently? How can we put out a cool property out there involving football? And we went about it scientifically. We said, okay, what do people like, and everyone loves T20 more than cricket today. Like ODI cricket and Test cricket have been dying for a while. They're trying to revive it in various formats, but T20 is what we all like and watch. And at least very specifically in our culture, we like to see goals, we love to see sixes, we love to see fours, as opposed to, classy batting over 4 days. And which is why for us it was very important that we put out something that addressed specific needs of the consumer, which is a cool sports property, and also bring in people that they've never ever had the chance to see or watch live. So a guy like Ronaldinho or a Ryan Giggs have never played in this format ever before, have never played in forget India, outside their main playing careers at their respective clubs in Europe. So our idea was to do something in our country which no one has done before, and bring the world's eyes to India's futsal culture. And while going about it, obviously we also felt that we should give back to the country in some way. And we do a talent hunt called the Launchpad. So it's like your American Idol, like your roadies. So literally we go to every city that we are in. We have 6 teams in the tournament, and in each city we do a talent hunt. So 2,000, 3,000 kids participated last year, and 5 of them got selected directly to the tournament. So that's a unique IP that we hold. So for instance, I mean, let's talk about cricket, right? Like if you're a cricketer, you play in your respective neighborhood, then your city division, then your regional division, your state, and then your Ranjis, and then, for the country. So there are at least like 7, 8 layers that you have to go through before you become a top player. Whereas with Premier Futsal, what we did uniquely was, you could be playing with your friends, and if you're good enough, you get picked and you play with Ronaldinho. So that also sort of drove our marketing a lot, where we became that aspirational sports brand that young kids want to get into. And lots of people play five-a-side football these days. It's the fastest growing sport in the world. They just don't call it futsal. They all call it five-a-side football. So I think our intention was to put out a very cool property out there. And what happened by us doing all of that scientifically was we were able to address a market that was wanting some really cool sports on television. Didn't really set out to say, oh wow, is everyone waking up in the morning and thinking, God, I didn't see a futsal game today. No, absolutely not, right? But you want to make them believe that this is something that they want to follow and be part of. Like just what, like, you know, what Steve Jobs did early in the days. No one thought, oh, I need a touch phone ever. But you put that into a consumer's head saying this is cool and you want to be there and you want to make it aspirational for people to, other people to be thinking, okay, if he has it, I have it, right? So I think that is where we came from. I guess, Dhruval, your story would be very different.
Dhruval, would you like to add anything to
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one thing that he mentioned, which is the key here, right? It's of course, it's about problem and the approach you take. But it's about the market and your product, right? So ultimately, you have to build something that somebody wants. A lot of times, we have seen around where there are products being built which nobody wants. So as long as there is something that you know, whether you are creating that need or that need is already there, you have to identify one. But the need has to be the key. Whether you are, so in his case, they are creating a need. Right? Over time, probably their goal would be to, you know, where everybody wants to watch futsal only on Premier Futsal League, right? Just like cricket. So watching cricket, or when there are platforms like Hotstar or Zee TV or Star TV, which are bringing cricket to you via different channels, that's one of the problems that they're trying to solve. But you never thought that it's a problem for you, that you want to watch cricket, but it's a need that you have. So you have to pick that need and of course solve it in a very, very different way. Why differentiation is very important for startups or early ventures is because otherwise you don't want to start competing with something which is already there. You have to have something which is differently done for the same need, or it has to be a different need which is being solved in a similar way, which is a traditional way of solving problems. But something has to be different. Either the need has to be different or the solution has to be different, or the approach has to be different. In our case, what we go into is solving very complex problems, but we know that the need is there. And we find out that need by talking to our customers, and our customers are not individuals, our customers are large companies. And that's where the decision making is happening by the C-level people, the VPs, president, directors of the organizations. And they are trying to solve something for their own organization. For example, Flipkart. You must have seen Flipkart or Paytm were never sending SMS notifications if you had bought something from Flipkart or Paytm 3 years ago. In last couple of years, they have now been used to sending you more SMS, more alerts that your shipment has been picked up by Rajesh at 10 o'clock and it's going to come to your home at 2 o'clock. So those SMS also is a huge complexity in the back end because they don't have one Rajesh which is picking up one shipment. They have hundreds such Rajesh which is picking up thousands of shipments every day and delivering it to multiple locations. They have a certain capacity that they can carry. They have certain vehicles that they need. They have certain commitments to you as an end customer that they have to take the shipments to you in at the right time frame, at the right point, in the right condition, in the right cost. So considering all these parameters, if we can solve this real-time problem of how things are done and how their customers are engaged, that's what we try to solve with the use of technology. Again, it's a very, very complex thing to do in a simplistic manner, versus what he's doing is a very simple thing to do in a very grand way, right? Which is something where the need is being created and the customers are starting to aspire to buy that product. But yeah, all in all, ultimately drills down to whether you are serving a market, what market it is, how big is that market is very, very important. I think market size is something that you must have all read about or heard about. But most companies fail across the world, primarily because they are targeting a market which is very small or is not non-existent. I'm not sure how many of you will relate to this kind of a statement that I'm making, that market size, but that's the most important thing while building a business, that there has to be a large market which needs it. A lot of people have to have a need of your demand. A lot of people does not mean in quantity. For example, for us, we have only 150 customers, but all these customers pay us lakhs or crores of rupees every year, right? Versus in his case, every consumer will be one individual who may usually pay maybe 200 rupees to watch a ticket, or maybe 50 rupees to download a data pack to watch Premier Futsal on his smartphone. But he has to have thousands or millions of such people who are waiting to watch futsal. In our case, we have to have few hundred companies which are willing to pay lakhs or crores of rupees every year or every month to buy that product from you. So that's again market sizing. Will go more in details as we talk more.
Something to add there, right? very interesting about the market size dynamic. There are two ways to look at it. As an entrepreneur, you either, whenever you start a venture, and very specifically in technology, at least in the early days, however big the market that you're addressing, you still start off your venture almost as if you're targeting a niche segment. You know, and that's what, you know, when you go to VCs and investors, when he's raised money from VCs and angels, I've done that before. That's one of the things that they say, which is address it as if you're addressing a very small market. Capture that small market first, because that small market will give you all the insight that you want when you actually scale. So it's almost understanding your customer, what exactly, and along the way, almost every startup that we've heard of, every big company today that's so well established, has pivoted during its time, right? And that's come down to them first going into a small sample size of, let's say, 100,000, 10,000 people, depending on, you know, what that larger audience is that they address. Understanding very specifically feedback from the initial customers, and then going after the larger market. But again, being a B2B company has its own sort of different aesthetics, which I think, you know, comes out in being 150 customers paying you that tons of money, as opposed to million people paying you like peanuts.
When you try to bring in a new idea, when you try to build a new startup, aren't people receptive about new ideas? Because people are not very used to something new. I mean, they might be very comfortable in the way they are. So how do somebody go about it if he's coming with some new idea and he's trying to be a disruptor in that segment?
So I think there are two things to this. One is one is the consumer or your customer, and the other one is people who back you up, right? And in both you face various challenges. And for you to be able to tell someone your product which you believe in, and you have to transfer that vision, is a very, very difficult thing. So I'll address two things first, like in my sector and a little bit of tech, and then, you know, probably Dhruval can talk to you through the whole tech bit. Let's say, for instance, the Kabaddi League. I'm pretty sure all of you guys have seen at least one game of Pro Kabaddi, which goes on it's going on right now. Do you guys watch Pro Kabaddi? Yeah. So no one ever thought Kabaddi would be a conversation in, let's say, just take this example. No one would have ever thought 3 years back that Kabaddi would be spoken on stage in IIT Kanpur, right? Because it's rural, it's not something that you're talking about in you know, plush corporate environment, because it's a raw rural sport, right? But people took a gamble on it, and today it has like 400 million viewers, because they made a product which looks great on television, and they also got in the right elements around it. You know, big corporates who own teams put monies behind marketing the sport, include ways in which you can include the community to it. So all of that is required essentially when you start off something, any venture for that matter. I'm just putting out an example to tell you how different it was 3 years back for a sport that is considered extremely rural and all of that. And today, you know, anyone and everyone talks about Pro Kabaddi because it's become so much more popular. More importantly, it's about just the people who support you, your partners, your investors, all of that. I think that is the most difficult bit, because they'll never be able to see what you see. They'll never be able to tell what your vision is. Obviously, you yourself will always know that the vision changes after every 2 years, 3 years, because you pivot on various reasons at a business level, at an operational level. So to be able to convince people to partner with you by either putting monies behind you or becoming a customer and pay some money upfront to do it, I think that's the most difficult bit in building a venture. If you can cross that hurdle, and it all goes down to the fundamental, which is build something people want, or create the need in that market, right? If you can do that, I think you're safe.
Would you like to add something?
I think that's pretty much it.
So can we say that when somebody, I would come to investors, so aren't investors receptive about new ideas? Because at the end of the day, they all are here to make money, and people might not accept the idea because the new idea is based on some assumptions. So how they do go about it?
So the kind of investors we attract, so there are multiple kind of investors, right? Not everybody wants to, so investors' final agenda is to make money. That's all, right? So what they look at you is that they have to answer 3 questions. First, in your idea, is there any money to be made ever? Like, will it ever go public, or will it ever be sold? Or will they ever get returns on their investments and whatnot? Second is they look at the people, whether you can make them money, right? It's quite possible that the idea is great, but the team is not that great, and they'll never be able to take that idea to a larger scale. And the third one is that whether the money is to be made for them or not. So it's quite possible that more investors will come in future, and it's quite possible that your idea will be more drifted away to, and then the interest will get more drifted away to those investors and not to the first investors who had put in money. So that's how they take decisions. And there are two sort of investors. One sort of investors who want exponential returns on their money. So they are gambling. And second investors are more saner investors, which are looking at about 15, 20, 25% kind of annual returns on you. And that is, they typically invest in more matured businesses, which are going to grow at 50% year on year, 30% year on year, 70% year on year. Typically, those are called private equity investors, which are investing in larger organizations, more stable organizations, more older organizations. And the first kind of investment is venture capital. Venture capital is, as it says, it's adventurous. So they are literally gambling. They may or may not tell you about it, but for them, they try to invest in 10 to 15 companies, and they see that 1 or 2 or 3 of them should just go exponentially high. So they typically want to invest in companies like his, where if it works out, well, a company like Kabaddi, if it works out, Kabaddi will become a 400 million bhi nahi, probably the entire billion population would want to watch Kabaddi tomorrow. And there will be million ways to make money out of it. But if it fails, it will fail so miserably that it will not even be talked about. It will just be gone. And then some other philosophy is to put in money in companies like us, where there is a business plan, there is revenues, there is a projection accordingly. There's a team which gets built. There are dedicated people you can hire who are industry veterans in it. There's a target audience already defined. You can talk to those customers and find out whether you really need it or not. So it's a much more safer investment. May not get you 100 times the returns of your investment. It will get you 50 times the investment, which is also still much, much bigger. But both are equally, both are risky businesses. Some typically consumer tech businesses or consumer product businesses or entertainment businesses are more like a hockey stick cow kind of business, where if it fails miserably. If it works out, it will work out like mad. Then comes the B2B, which has much higher chances of working out, but the returns will not be 100 times, 500 times as such. Right? And the third is the private equity one, which is much more saner, where they want that, okay, my company that I'm investing in, which will not quadruple in revenue in 2 years. Right? For example, I said that we have been tripling revenues in last 3 years, and we have projections that we have to triple revenues in next 5 years also. Most large organizations never even imagine or calculate growing more than 50% year on year. It's just insane to grow more than 50% year on year. It's like having a job where your salary doubles every year. There's no such job, right? Similarly, and there's no such job in a corporate environment where salary is going to double every year, because the company's growth will never have that. Versus in startups, where the company itself is growing triple, there is high chances that your salary will double at least, right? So that's how investors also think, and they make a portfolio out of it. And of course, they are very much interested in new ideas, because they know that tripling the revenues or going from 0 to 100 million viewers in less than 2 years, 3 years is only possible in new ideas. Because if the idea was already there, somebody would have already done it. So investors' job is to hunt such ideas so that they can make crazy returns on top of it. A lot of times we think that entrepreneurs need investors, but it's equal on both the sides. Investors need entrepreneurs as bad as entrepreneurs need investors, because investors' money is being idle, and for them idle money is opportunity cost. They may be, if I have 100 rupees and I could not make it 200 in 2 years, that means I lost 100 rupees extra, which I could have made by investing. So investors are always on the lookout for fresh ideas, new ideas. And if you see, right, I mean, some of the sponsors right there are some VC firms. So I know I observed Excel Partners is one of the investors in IIT Kanpur E-Summit. What is Excel Partners' interest in sponsoring an event in IIT Kanpur? Think about it. Their interest is for all of you to know about them, so that tomorrow whoever graduates or even becomes a dropout and starts the idea first goes to Excel Partners and pitch. so that they have the first right on your idea and the first right to invest in you, because you would first go to Excel Partners. I don't know how many of you noticed that name, by the way, but
I guess, yeah, it's more or less the same. I mean, I'll just end up being repetitive. So yeah, whatever he said. I think with investors, a big challenge for them is, you know, like people try to replicate various philosophies and theses on investments. And you see in the world of venture capitalists, the guys who perform, you know, much, like the top 5% of the venture capital world more or less makes up for the other 95%. It's a very interesting industry in itself, which is a lot of its flaws will never be addressed as such openly, because, you know, they're backing the biggies, right? They're backing the dreams of people like us, you know, people like you in the future. But literally that industry, 5% of that industry actually makes up for the 95%. And even in the larger financial ecosystem, the VC world is probably like, whatever, 2-3% of it. But they play a major role in anything and everything that we see today, you know, in technology, in how we are accessing healthcare, in governance, everything. So that there is significance to what they do, and how they invest in companies obviously depends on various criteria. It's challenging, obviously. Fundraise is probably the easiest of all the difficult things that you'll do as an entrepreneur. You know, people think of fundraise in itself being a role or a function of building a company, but it really is just a byproduct of what you're building, right? If you're building, if your company is growing and your customers are happy, I think money comes to you, as opposed to you going and making fundraising an exercise in itself, which then it becomes a opportunity cost for you as an entrepreneur, because you're wasting time raising money instead of selling, which is what you should have set the company up to do, because, you know, like the biggest entrepreneurs, the greatest entrepreneurs say sales kills everything. So at least I come from that school of thought. You know, some people obviously, like many entrepreneurs, also come from the whole culture building and, you know, building a great, you know, thing in the company. I don't like personally believe in that. I think I come from that school where sales kills everything. Go out there, break things, try to push the boundaries, and hopefully it works out for you. That's where we come from.
Say if I want to venture in a core sector, and my investor is not very well equipped with the kind of knowledge he needs to, you know, run a company in a core sector, how do I go about it?
Did you catch the question?
The question, if I'm not wrong, the question is, you want to start something in one's X sector.
In core sector, especially I'm talking about the core, like say telecom or say mechanical. How
and the investor is not knowledgeable about it.
Because there are limited investors, I guess, in this industry.
If the investor does not know your sector, don't pitch. That's the simple answer. You may find it, you know, very sad that अरे यार ये investor भी pitch नहीं कर सकता हूँ मैं, because he's not able to understand my problem. There are two things: either you are not able to understand what he wants, or he genuinely does not understand your sector. If he genuinely does not understand your sector, if that's a strong data point you have, that he does not understand mechanical or does not understand electrical, do not pitch to that investor. And believe me or not, there are investors which are sector specific. It's just that in today's date, computer science ventures are more in fashion, and hence those investors are more loud about it, and they are more media savvy, so they are more vocal about what they are doing. But there are investors who are investing in core industries, and if you are raising money for your core industry venture, you have to go to an investor which understands your sector. Otherwise, even if he ends up investing, it will become a disaster after 1 year, because in 1 year he will realize he doesn't know anything about you or about what you are building. Either he will try to create immense pain for you, and he will push you to shut down the company without further burning his money, or he will say, you know, okay, you know, waste remaining of my money also, I'm not interested, don't ever call me again, my money is sunk cost, I'm writing you off, bye bye. So best thing to do, and then no other investor will ever touch you, because some investor already written off your company from their portfolio. That means somebody hates you in the market, and then nobody wants to touch your company. So best thing is to run behind an investor which understands you, and see their portfolio. Usually all these companies have their websites. You know, you can go and ask questions to investors also, what kind of companies they have invested in. If there is some relevance there, most likely they will be able to understand your problem and the problem you are trying to solve. If you feel that nobody is willing to invest, maybe there's something wrong in the idea, something wrong in the market, something wrong in the team you have built, X, Y, Z. But yeah, that would be my advice. I mean, run behind the people who understand your business. Otherwise, it's just waste of time.
Yeah, I mean, for any tech entrepreneur, that's really what you have to take back. In my context, very different. So for instance, our investors, we have 3 investors. One institutional Times of India's investment arm invested in us, and 2 ultra high net worth individuals from Chennai. So we raised about 100 crores last year, which is roughly what, $15–16 million at an absolute idea stage. So it's like a seed investment of $15 million. Like no one does that. So it's very difficult sort of trying to explain how that works out. But that's literally what it is in this world. So again, what sort of people you go out to reach out to, right? So for us, there are very specific categories. So there are people who invest in media, who invest in content. Like Facebook has just started recently investing in content. Looking at what the size of the market is, who are the people involved in it. So for us, when we raised our first round of investment, last year I was 25. So as a 25-year-old, I was telling people, I'm going to build a futsal league, which is going to become the biggest in the world. And, I was laughed at initially by loads of people, me and my co-founder. So for us, it was very important that we got in some credibility, because we don't have a surname as such, no? If you look at all these big media empires that are built, they're all built on some sort of large business house backing it. Like, the IPL is a BCCI, a Kabaddi is by a Mr. Anand Mahindra, and ISL is by the Ambani family, right? So it's always guys who are so rich and so well known who start sports leagues. Like, you don't see people who come from normal middle class backgrounds or I don't know, don't have means to 100 crores starting sports leagues and being so brash about it. But that's when, we took a very different approach of saying, let's go talk to a few people who might believe in our vision. And the first people that we spoke to were Luis Figo, former Portugal player, captain. He's sort of the godfather to Cristiano Ronaldo in the Portuguese national team. Played for Barcelona, Real Madrid. He joined as a president of the company. The next person we spoke to was Virat. He loved the idea of futsal because I think the team trains in futsal as well. And he loved the fact that, we're going to have guys like Luis Figo and Ronaldinho in the league, because these are athletes and sports persons he has, been influenced by and he admired. So for him, it was a very easy sell saying, hey, listen, we got Figo and Ronnie coming here and playing. And he's like, oh really? Okay, cool. Like, I definitely want to be part of it because it sounds cool, right? So when we had the buy-in of these two, I think it was a huge boost for us. So the minute then we went into any investor meeting after that, we'd get Figo on like a Skype call. He lives in Madrid for most of the year. And then the credibility is established. Then you're no longer a 25-year-old who's like trying to faff and say, you're going to build a big media property. Then you have the biggest sort of, the first big galactic footballer in the world who broke a $60 million transfer fee sitting next to you and saying, I believe in this. I'm going to bring the footballers from around the world to play in this, invest in it, right? So I think a different way of how we did it was, we established that sort of credibility for ourselves by bringing these well-established names, brands around it. And then obviously for us, the good bit was our investors are all deeply passionate about football, sports, and just youth development as such. Sports as a business rests on 3 main things. You build communities, you create jobs, you give opportunities. If there are people who really believe in these 3 things, we went out after them. And there were people who believed in those 3 things, who believed that we could actually pull this off. And yeah, we were able to raise that sort of money.
Yesterday's session, we were one of the speakers was talking about that when when you're planning to start your own venture, there has to be some kind of innovation. So is startup all about innovation?
Yeah, to a large extent. I think innovation and a little bit of efficiency also. Like, you don't have to be disruptive every time. You don't have to be, you can be additive as well. and be able to add value in some specific sort of operations to sort of create value everywhere. I think innovation, disruption are very abused words these days, because it's because all the big companies keep talking about those, they're being innovative and all of that. But literally what you see is more of the same. The core tech involved in most tech companies today is very repetitive. No one's coming up with like cool technologies as such. So I think it's not always that you need to be innovative, but it helps. It definitely does help. I think you can be different. I don't think people are being like, did I come up with futsal? No, there's no innovation in it. Yeah, futsal existed everywhere else in the world. It was played like Ranji Trophy in many countries around the world. What I thought was, okay, let me take futsal, let me add a bunch of footballers into this, and then let's go with it. Let's see what happens. Right? So that changed the game for us. So I think that's my story.
I think on that front, you still innovated, right? You did innovation in execution. I think that's very, very important, because we always think innovation means a new idea. Innovation may not mean a new idea. It sometimes, or majority of the times, innovation means an innovation in execution. And a new idea, 90% of the times does not fly, right? Because there are hundreds of startups that start every year, but still only 1% survive. And 1% is the ratio which has been there for years. So every year, out of 100 companies which are starting, only 1 or maybe 5 are going to the next year. 95 are shutting down, which we don't talk about. Why is that happening? It's primarily because they had a great idea, but they did not have a great execution. And especially in Indian context, since we are sitting here, it's very, very important that how we execute. India is not a very easy country which allows you to execute things seamlessly. We do not have great infrastructure. We have a huge cultural influence on every single thing we do. And hence things get slowed down, gets complicated when it is executed. So companies or people who ultimately find the best way to execute their new idea win the game. So I think it's about innovation in execution, then having an innovation in idea. I think in his case, it was both a new idea and I'm sure innovative execution, because even if you don't run it the way it should have been, or if you hadn't done those growth hacks of reaching out to Virat or reaching out to Figo and all these top guys, and if they did not have that spark in him to somehow convince them to believe in this vision, it wouldn't have been it wouldn't have flown. So that's the interesting piece of innovation. It could be very small things. It could be an aggregation of small things. It doesn't have to be some big execution plan or a business plan. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be on a complex Excel plan. It has to be something on the ground which works. And it works differently, works seamlessly, works like a charm. And maybe only you could do it. And that becomes your USP, which nobody else can replicate. Because most ideas can be replicated, but most execution cannot be.
We don't have much time left. Quick set of questions. 3 skills required to run a new idea, to make one idea into a successful venture.
3 skills required. Yeah. Wow, that's thought-provoking question. So I never thought about it. 3 skills to run an idea. I think number one is having go-getter attitude. Once you have believed in something and you just want to somehow make it happen, then you will go and make it happen. No matter how much the world says you cannot, how much your friends says that it's a BS idea, how much your parents says कि बेटा क्या कर रहा है, job ले ले, ये क्या बकवास idea है, right? Whatever, or maybe if you don't have investments, you don't have anything in hand, maybe you don't even have a good team, you will somehow make everything happen. So I think go-getter attitude is the most important skill that I have personally sensed in the team I had, in myself, and all the other successful entrepreneurs I have met and I have observed or I have heard about. Right. So I think that's number one. I'll give it to him. I'll think about other 2 ones. I think this is the first and the most important one. I think that's a very interesting story I had gotten from one of my mentors. So Vijay Sharma, the CEO of Paytm, is one of our board members and a key mentor to us. And he keeps on talking about a lot of such philosophical stuff, right? What is the most important thing? And he told me this example. So the example he gave was a very cliche story. But there's a monk and there's somebody who was a follower and he goes to the monk, yaar, mujhe successful banna hai. Main kya karu? And the monk says that, first of all, tell me how badly you want to succeed. And the follower says, I want to succeed badly. He says, still, how badly you want to succeed? He says, I want to succeed badly, very, very badly. I want to success right now. And then he takes a bucket full of water, takes the head of the follower in his hand, and puts it into the water. Like he tries to drown himself, the guy into the water. And 10 seconds go by, 30 seconds go by. After 50th second, the guy is struggling to come out of water. And he's still not allowing him to come out of the water. After 60th second, he somehow just manages to come out of the water. And then the monk questions him, how badly did you want to come out of the water? Is it the same, is it the way you want to succeed in your life? If you really want to succeed that badly, right, how badly you want to breathe, how badly you want to live, if that is the bad desire and need and passion you have in you, everything else will just happen. The world will follow you, everything can happen. But that most people just give up some way in the middle and then they crash. So I think that's one key thing that I've observed. But
let's call him Dhruvil Baba from now on then. No, I think, yeah, it's just about that perseverance, saying, you know, never take a never, you know, never just means not now. It never means never. That's what entrepreneurs believe in, you know, because every investor you go to always say, hey, thank you, but not now, right? So that's what it is. Yeah, and one of the things that he said, that there's a different version of that story. It's a one-liner actually, which one of my investors long time back when I was in London told me, which is, overnight success comes after 10 years of hard work. You know, there is really never overnight success. You know, people think, oh, you became famous today, but then there've been like, I don't know, like countless hours of struggle and depression, anxiety, all of that, you know. An entrepreneur's life is that, right? People don't address it, like, but I think most entrepreneurs they suffer from, you know, borderline depression, anxiety on a daily basis, you know. Out of 10 emails that you send out every day, about 8 of them are like, you know, buzz off, like, don't waste my time. But one would be like, okay, let's talk 6 months from now. Maybe that one will give you that hope of saying, okay, let's meet tomorrow, catch up. And that's your success for the day, because that person is interested in you, can spare 5 minutes for you, right? So the life of an entrepreneur is that. It's about a lot of struggles and how you face them, how you're able to sort of take them. Many of them, like, sort of, and when you have a team, and that's when the team comes into play, right? Your co-founders and your extended team. I think anyone up to the employee number 100 of any company is a co-founder of that company, because he's building that company, every unit of it. That's when you need to sort of be a group and not be a lone wolf, and that helps a lot. But yeah, it's really about perseverance. I really don't think that you don't need three things to be an entrepreneur. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to be intelligent. All of these can be learned skills, right? But you can never teach a person, to stay underwater for 70 seconds and not 60 seconds if you want to reach, you know, if you want to earn $1 million, you know, just as an analogy here. So that is what it takes to be an entrepreneur. I think everything else is execution, and all of the other skills required to start a company, run a company, make it successful, whatever, sell it, IPO it, whatever, all of that can be hired. You know, literally, all of that could be functions, skills that you can pay for. And there are good people out there in the world, smart people in the world, who you can pay to do all those things. But one thing you can never hire is dedication, ownership, and just the will to bloody go the next day and be able to take all of that again and go through the grind. So I think that's where it starts and ends for an entrepreneur.
Okay, last question, because a lot of students from IIT are sitting here. Just want to ask, formal education is very important if you want to start any venture, because we see a lot of students from IIT easily get fund. I've been following startups since long, and I see a lot of students have either failed or, you know, but they do easily get funds for their startups. They might have same idea, but funding comes very easily to them. Does it play a very important role? They might kill me for asking this question, but...
No, I mean, no, we were just talking about this on the way here, because we're coming to an IIT. So I guess the reputation precedes everything else, right? So, but I do not think a formal education is really a big criteria. Obviously, your knowledge of the sector you're in and what you're doing and the processes and operations involved in your venture, I think those are more important than whether you are from IIT or you're from any other university or whatever. But yeah, I think yeah, it's if you look at all the most funded startups, if you look at the biggest amount of money going into like companies which are started by Harvard alumni, Stanford alumni, MIT and all that. So the reputation precedes it, and also talent attracts talent. So once someone knows Zuckerberg went to Harvard and built Facebook, anyone else who was a really cool computer science engineer thought they should go to Harvard and study to make it like Zuckerberg, right? So talent breeds talent, talent attracts talent. So that's what it is. I don't know if there's anything else.
So I want to ask this question here. So since you all are IIT IIT students, how many of you, there are two options to get, so when you actually got the admit for IIT, when you're appearing for the entrance exam, were you very intelligent, that's why you passed the exam with the best marks, or you worked really, really hard? So how many of you were very, very like intelligent and that's why you appeared and you got very good marks in IIT entrance? And how many of you were really hardworking? So there are about 20% people hardworking, 80% do not know how they got into IIT. Is it the case?
Maybe.
I think that's the case. All right. So what I was trying to get to is that hard work actually, hard work can beat anything. So as long as, and that's the trust people have on IITians, that IITians, if I bet my money on an IITian, even if he's an IIT dropout, IIT घुसने के लिए भी उसने बहुत मेहनत की होगी, तो मतलब ये आगे जाके मेहनत तो कर लेगा, मतलब ये कुछ भी करके कर लेगा. And that's the only bet they have on IITians, and that's why even if they drop out, they still are the most sought out after talent in India or globally also a lot of times. And I think yeah, that's the skill. So all of you are definitely smart, but I think you are more hardworking people than anybody else in the country, at least on paper, and that's what people want to bank on. People want to work with hardworking people. People want to know कि यार इसने एक बार decide कर लिया तो वो कर लेगा कुछ तो. So I think formal education, I don't think it is, I mean I have a very strong opinion, formal education does not matter at all. It's purely within you on how you survive through things, how badly you want it again, the same thing, and how hardworking you are. Smartness अपने आप आ जाती है. वो जो smart work वाला फंडा है वो I think उतना strong नहीं है. Work smart, don't work hard. कभी-कभी ठीक है. And of course, we don't want to, जैसे वो गधा मजदूरी भी नहीं करनी है. But hard work is something very, very important. And that's when IITians, I think, are the best guys. And they know how to become smart. Even if they're not smart, they know how to get there. Somehow they'll get there. So that's the reason why the people put money on IITians, I guess.
I'm sure a lot of future business leaders are sitting right there, and hard work is the key. So can we conclude that it's not about a new idea, it's more about execution? Can we conclude on that?
Yeah. I mean, we have been always told that ideas are for peanuts and execution is everything. And all the successful entrepreneurs across the world, and there are so many YouTube videos, speeches, articles you will read saying the exact same thing. I think there's nothing new we said today. ये हर एक आर्टिकल में गूगल पे मारोगे how to become an entrepreneur यही मिलेगा, same whatever we said. But it's just that it's very difficult to put into practice, and even sometimes I feel surprised that why very few people actually put into practice, why few people take risks. I don't know why. I don't have the answer to it honestly. But I think everybody can take risk, everybody can work hard. बस एक बार वो decide करना होता है, and then execution हो गया तो हो जाता है, and then you're just like through it, and you become successful.
Abhinandan, would you like to add anything to it?
Yeah, no, I think yeah, it's really about just like being able to go through the pain of being an entrepreneur, building a business, but also something that you believe in. As long as you believe in it, I think you'll go for it. If you're doing it for a monetary reason, you're becoming an entrepreneur to make money, that's the wrong way to get into it. Because like Dhruval said, probably 1 or 2% of all startups in the world succeed. 98% is failure. So the 98%, I mean, many of them would be attributed to, let's say, just wrong target market, probably ahead of its time or something like that. But the majority of that will also be People who got into it to think, okay, so listen, I'm going to replicate this, make some money, you know, sell it and become rich, get myself a Ferrari or whatever. You know, that's what you've been shown on television on this thing, right? You know, when you see Mark Cuban, you forgot that he built and sold a company that actually then went off, right? But now you see him in Shark Tank and you're like, wow, I want to be Mark Cuban. Or a Sean Parker, for that example, right? But they've gone through a lot more than what we see, and that experience is what you need to be ready for. Not to say, oh yeah, I want that lifestyle and hence I want to become an entrepreneur. I think that's not a start at all. I think you need to build something that you want to really, you believe in and you want to give it out there for people to sort of experience.
That was a very insightful conversation we had today. Thank you for being with us here, guys. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir. It was a really intriguing and enlightening session. Now, before we conclude, I would like to present our guests with a memento as a token of thanks for sharing their experiences with us. So, firstly, I would like to invite on stage Ms. Mihika Jain, Head Media and Publicity ECell, to felicitate Mr. Dhruvil Sangvi. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Kashish Mittal, Head Corporate Relations, ECell IIT Kanpur, to felicitate Mr. Abhinandan Balasubramaniam. Finally, I would like to call upon Mr. Kaustubh Mundra, Head Startup Development, to felicitate our moderator, Ms. Ruhi Kurele. Thank you all. Thank you for joining us.
For all those who attended previous workshop on fundraising for startups, please collect your certificates while going out. And also stall for t-shirts is also on the desk. So if you want to buy t-shirts, please. Chalo.